Welcome to the Punchline Podcast. Oh, holy shit. I just called it the Punchline Podcast. It's the Punchline Project, and luckily Dusty's not here today. But welcome to the Punchline Project, where the jokes hit hard, the truth hits harder, and today the guest could survive off a single protein bar and a strong opinion. Dusty's gone, as we already noticed. Probably arguing with a cashier about the Anunnaki. Kevin, off somewhere, whispering into a book club. But me, I brought backup. Not a podcast bro, a backwoods warlord. My brother-in-law, a man so rugged, his beard has its own zip code. A man who once stared down a mountain lion and then offered it light. This dude doesn't use Google Maps, he uses moss. He doesn't wear cologne, he smells like victory, pine sap, and legally processed venison. He calls hunting a lifestyle and refers to salad as leaf litter. So buckle up. Today we're hunting punchlines, gutting small talk, and dragging this episode out of the woods with our bare damn hands. Let's make camp. Let's make fire. Let's make podcast history. Couple things right off the rip.
Hell yeah.
I butchered a lot of that. And as everyone will notice, being that this is the first time in Punchline Project history, there's only two of us.
Two of us.
Dusty's gone. He is gone. He had to take the weekend off. Kevin is not here. Had to take the weekend off too, I guess. I mean, they will be back.
Oh, yeah.
So this is just something fun that Landon and I, we decided, we both were available for the weekend. We don't have much going on. I guess you could say we don't have much of a life. So we were like, hell, let's do it. Let's go. Let's have fun. Let's see what's up.
Yes, sir.
So one thing I did want to bring up is you and Dusty did put out an episode on the Dropped Outdoors podcast, Dusty. Dropped Outdoors. I'm shouting you out, brother. Y'all put one out yesterday, and I thought it was very interesting because we are in, y'all talked about men's mental health a lot. Yeah. And we are in, as it being June, it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's also a couple of other things. I mean, it was Juneteenth yesterday, which I guess I should have known about, but I didn't really realize it until I realized my bank was closed. I was like, I didn't know that business is closed for that. I'll be honest, and maybe that's something I should be more aware of going into new holidays and stuff like that. Did you know that it was?
The only reason I knew is because my phone offered to turn my alarm off for me, and I was like, no, I still have work to do.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Not only was it was Thursday, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was Thursday. We got work. You're in hard forever now, right? It started as what is it? 75 days.
Hard.
It started as 75 hard, and now you're in Landon's hard forever.
Yeah,
Rock hard,
going.
brother. Hey, and I'll give you a compliment where compliments are due. I've watched a couple of y'all's episode, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at you, and you, especially when you were wearing like a button up, I think it was like a white shirt.
Oh yeah.
And you just had your arm on the table. And being that you're my brother-in-law, I was hanging out with your sister, and I said, damn, bro. I said, your brother's looking thick, and Landon's never, like, you've always been like the tall, skinny-ish guy, especially when we were, younger.
Oh, yeah. When we were younger, I was like 180 soaking wet.
Yeah,
6'4".
6'4", 100. You should have been you were a soccer. You mean that was one of your sports you played growing up, but you have if we were from an area where soccer was a popular, at least as popular as basketball. I mean, we're from Texas, football is king, and you and Dusty go to a school, two hulking men that don't have football.
Yeah.
How does that happen, right?
It was bad.
But if it would have been like soccer instead of basketball at y'all's high school, then you would be the one being like, oh, I was the star. Like Dusty would have been a good soccer player, but you are made for it. Goalie, defender, striker. Those are your three. I don't know what positions did you play?
Striker.
Striker.
Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine this man 6'4"? And I think I've told this. I think I may have mentioned this before about outrunning a bear in between you and Dusty, where Dusty has that sneaky speed and you just have that freaking stride.
Yeah,
I could just imagine you just flying down the side of the field and just
Dude, I did. It was I enjoyed it a lot, but I mean, I could out dribble people and outrun them
Right.
with the ball.
With the ball.
I could get away with the ball from people.
I mean, maybe anybody doesn't, but you and I actually played against each other in basketball in high school. I remember y'all just having two freaky 6'4" guys, and it would be like I'd pump fake one, he would jump, and then here would come the other one. I'm like, what in the hell is going? Where are they? And we went to small school.
Dude, for a 1A school, like we had multiple. Like there was like 4 or 5 of us that were 6'2" plus.
Yeah.
I'm like, how does that even happen?
Yeah. And then I went to a small school, and I was the tallest guy on my team. And I mean, granted, I'm pretty tall compared to like the average person, but for basketball, you know, freaking even you at 6'4", you know, pushing 6'5", that's just, I mean, that's how tall Steve Nash is.
Yeah.
And I remember watching Steve Nash on the TV and being like, oh, he's just a little guy.
That's a little guy.
And then you look him up, he's like 6'3", 6'4". I'm like, these dudes are so freaking tall.
They're huge.
They're huge. They're so mean, because you would think, oh, only these guys are, you know, in the NBA or like in college basketball they watch on TV. Well, I went to freaking junior college. We had 2 7-footers on our team. Now, granted, they weren't as high skilled or maybe as athletic as some of the 7-footers you would see playing more advanced basketball, but I'm like, they're just random 7-foot dudes just walking this earth everywhere. And I'm over here at like 6'2", thinking that, you know, because average height for a man's like 5'9".
Yeah.
Right. Almost everybody I know is 5'7" to 5'9", and there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing you can do about it, so it doesn't matter. But I'm over here, and everybody's like, "Oh, you know, you're so tall. I wish I was as tall as you." I was like, "Well, hell, I know. I can sit here and list off people that I do a podcast with that are taller than me. Like, it's just insane how many people are so tall. Yeah. But then when you do like a percentage of the population, it is not.
It's not.
It's that. It's like 2% of the population or whatever is over 6 foot or something like that. It's
something
like
crazy.
It's something crazy like that. But getting back to like the men's mental health side, we kind of got off topic there.
Always.
But hey, this is supposed to be the punchline one, so we will venture and our brains will become scattered because I'm trying to stall to remember what we were talking about. But talking about men's mental health, and I do like some of the stuff y'all were going into as far as like, as a man, we're not really, I don't know. It's not that anybody's ever told me I couldn't show emotion.
Yeah.
And I will say that maybe for me, and a lot of what y'all were talking about, I think was, you know, being able to express yourself being able to express your emotions and things like that. And as men, maybe society says that's not what we're supposed to do.
I feel like it's a trained behavior. And I don't know where the training is coming from, but it's keep your mouth shut, mind your business, do what you need to do.
I think it's John Wayne's fault. I really do. Because,
Chuck Norris?
Yeah, like I remember my grandpa, John Wayne's a real man. Well, really, he was like an artsy fartsy. I mean, he was an actor.
Yeah.
He was an actor. He just, he's got to have an artistic, there's got to be that artistic thing to want to act and, express yourself in that form. So I think a lot of it, because John Wayne's like, howdy pilgrims, like he's just a real slow talking. Even in his movies, he's portrayed as like this almost in Clint Eastwood, like these silent, strong types, which and I think that's very important because sometimes as a man, especially in the family setting, you do have to, for your families, even when you want to freak out, you have to be strong, right? You have somebody, it's a leadership thing. And I think that's and I'm not saying anything negative about women 100% can be leaders. There's no doubt about it. There's that they do it in their own way, right? And we do it in our own way. But I do think that like being able to express yourself as a man is sometimes frowned upon. Yeah. And sometimes by women, and it's no slight to anybody. I do think it's a training thing.
I mean, anytime if I'm sure we've all been in relationships where there's been some emotion and they just, it gets shut down.
Right.
It's like, why are you acting that way? Well, I can't always just be
Yeah.
a bad motherfucker. That's just how it is.
Holding it together. Well, and like from my standpoint, and I was kind of, I don't always like listening to mental health type things, you know, because, well, just from my perspective, growing up, I was always encouraged to express my feel, you know, not in a crazy way, but if I had something on my mind in our family, it was frowned upon to keep it inside.
Okay.
We were very, and sometimes it led to a little more arguing, I would say, which we all, you know, families argue, right?
Yeah.
It's just what way do you go about to get there? But I was never shunned, you know, it was never shunned to not express yourself and growing up. So sometimes I don't understand it. And, you know, when you don't understand something, sometimes you don't like listening to it. But then listening to y'all talk about it, you know, being my close personal friends and stuff like that, and you being my, I mean, we're family.
Yeah, family.
You know? So it kind of was eye-opening a little bit to be able to be like, you know, because I don't see like it, you know, I don't see you and Dusty as people who, maybe you more than Dusty, but Dusty's not usually the kind of person who keeps it inside. But there is stuff that, you know, no matter what, that you do hold back
you're
on.
just going to hold back for sure. That's just, like I said, society kind of, it feels like you should hold it back.
Yeah.
And me more than, I guess, probably most people, because my whole life I've just been more of an introvert to myself. And so if I've ever had any emotions, it's normally like behind closed doors and nobody's going to know.
And that's one of the things that has impressed me the most about, you know, you doing the Dropped Outdoors, you helping us out with this and being on this, like you were okay. Cause I honestly, when Dusty said he couldn't make it, I was like, oh, well, you know, you're not the kind of person who normally is just out there like that. Like you will be in person, but I mean, doing this is kind of crazy.
Oh yeah. No, it's a lot. And it's a lot more than I ever expected. So whenever we first started this thing, like we talked about, I wasn't supposed to be on anything.
Right.
I was going to be on a soundboard. I was going to control the flow of everything, you know, show information, that kind of stuff, but I wasn't going to be on camera talking. And it kind of just turned into me being on camera. And I don't know, I've never been the talkative type, but now that I've kind of done this, it's like, it's freeing a little bit and I can talk and I don't have to actually be like, obviously I'm talking to people, but I'm not really talking like to that many people.
Right.
So I'm reaching out a lot more than I would be normally.
No, and I'm very, cause I mean, like Dusty and I are blabbermouths. like there's no doubt about it. Like you and Kevin definitely have, and it's the same with Kevin. Like you and Kevin have the same, you know, personalities. Y'all are not interested in like, this is not what Kevin's man cave would look like or anything like that. But in some ways, like y'all both like the cards, you know, like, you know, getting cards and collecting things and stuff like that. Whereas in Dusty and Dusty's the most extroverted person I know. I'll just say that. And so I can't compare myself to that, man, because you talk about somebody who was born to do this. That was Dusty. But I mean, and I'm kind of extroverted because I've always tried to, you know, I like being funny and cracking jokes and making people laugh. It brings me joy. You know, and that's, you know, that it helps my mental health, right? So I see, and people will be like, oh, don't you feel crazy doing a podcast? I'm like, yeah, I mean, what are the odds of this ever turning? But, and I was talking to Dusty on the phone about this yesterday when I was driving back from Hobbs, is like, oh, I'm not good at singing. I'm not good at dancing. You know, I can play a saxophone. I'm not going to brag, but like I can't play guitar, you know, like I'm not in a band or, you know, or going out on the weekends. Cause I've always been jealous of people that could like go out on a Saturday night to the bar, but they're not really going out to, you know, drink and get drunk and all that and party. They're going out to dance. Right. And I can dance a little bit now, especially after the wedding and everything, because I had to, you know, you got to dance.
Sharpen them skills up.
And I'm like, oh, people are going to be watching. Of course, I'm going to try to do good at this, right? So, and oh my gosh, I enjoy it. Like, I've always been jealous. Like, I'll just say it. I've always been jealous that I don't know why, but I never really learned how to two-step or anything like that. And I'm such a, I don't know. I don't like to admit when I can't do things, you know, like I don't like to ask for help. And I guess that is kind of my way of holding things inside is sometimes when I need help, I don't like asking for it because I do want to figure it out by myself. So there's like positives and negatives to it, but I've always been like, what is my artistic ability, right? You know, and I think that we're kind of the same way as far as like being expressive in art and things like that, because you've looked back through all of society's art's been such an, and I'm not just saying like painting, but art encompasses everything.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, whether it's plays or,
right.
you know, theater,
Right.
art is important.
I even consider this like part of your art, right?
Yeah.
Like the way that you decorate your house, you know, or your part of the house.
Yeah.
But this is my way of expressing myself of it. Whenever you can sit here I mean, hell, we figured out that maybe we don't need to run our mouths for 3 hours, but we've done it.
Oh yeah.
And when we
can.
Yeah. We are like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. Like, this is just us hanging out and stuff. And it is. I mean, we would talk about these same things hanging out, but being able to sit here, lights, camera, action, you know, and granted, there's not like there's anybody standing in front of us watching, but
dude, it reaches out to so many people. Like,
but you're putting yourself out there, right? Because if ever, you know, granted, if people were like, "Oh, this sucks," I would be like, "Well, I'm gonna work harder."
Yeah,
because
I've got to do something different,
right? Yeah, but and maybe it does suck, and our friends and family are just being nice to us. Fuck y'all. Tell us the truth. Tell me the truth, because I want to know. Like,
we've got to, or it's not going to get any better.
I want to know whenever we are, you know, like, oh, I did not like you and Landon talking about being on a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, and I do want to know whenever, because I want to get better at this, because I enjoy it so much. It's my way of, like, I've always said if I could sing, I would be the most obnoxious person that you ever met. And I'm pretty damn obnoxious anyway. But if I could sing,
it'd be over
all the time,
yeah.
Everywhere. I'd be at every karaoke night. I'd be trying to start a band, you know. As many podcasts as I try to start, I'd be trying to start bands. You know, like somebody would be like, "Oh, that band didn't work." I'd be switching out members. Oh, hey, maybe you need to be on bass, and we'll bring in. I got somebody playing guitar, and you know, because it's like an expression of myself, and I don't know if that is part of mental health, you know, but I feel like it is.
I feel like it is. And like Dusty said in his, like, it's been something that he's been able to grab onto that he hasn't had since basketball.
Yeah, it's something to be excited about and to work on and out. And we spend so much time just working on and working at. I do enjoy my job. I really do. There's a reason that I keep going back to it every time that I try to go do something else, because the line of work I have so much freedom, and I get to spend so much time out in the wild.
Yeah.
Places where I'll be like driving through an area of deep West Texas, deep, you know, southeastern New Mexico, and I'll be like, I bet you no one's ever been here.
Yeah, there's very few ever.
Just this random, now maybe they were over there 10 feet away, but probably no one's ever been here, and there's a good chance that no one will ever come back here again. And just sometimes, like, I work with my brother a lot, and we'll be in a side by side, just venturing off into the middle of wherever, you know, trying to come up with some routes for these pipelines and stuff like that. And we'll just stop and we'll look around and we'll be like, this view that we're looking at, you know, when you take it all in from like that perspective, you're like, no one's there. Like, I bet you we could go out into the back pasture and find places and be like, well, I bet you no one's ever like stood right here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I've been walking back there and had the similar, and you know, we're in a pretty populated area, but like we've owned this land for 36 years now. Mm-hmm. So nobody recently has been there.
This is one of the only patches. I mean, there are other obviously places around here with quite a bit of land, but not a lot.
No,
I mean,
it's closing.
Yeah, it's just getting to where everybody who had some is selling it off for.
Well, and I've said it 1.5 million times. Is whenever I was growing up, I didn't tell people I had 40 acres. That was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not
right, because it's not enough. Right?
Everybody in this area had 100+ acres, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, well, we've got 40. Now I tell my daughter all the time, I'm like, hey, she's like, we have a bunch of land. I was like, well, once upon a time, I didn't say what we had.
Right.
Now, you know, all of her friends have 2 acres or a half an acre or whatever, and she's like, I've got 40.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something to brag about now. As to where whenever I was growing up, we didn't do that.
No, like, nope. It's crazy how this area has gone up like that and stuff like. So
yeah, we're good. I moved the mouse around.
So that's why I like doing this, and that's kind of was, you know, where I was wanting to go with all of this is that I do think as men, we have to, and it sounds weird, but we have to find a way to express ourselves almost artistically, because you can't be throwing a fit.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's, as an adult in general, you don't want to be throwing a whole lot of fits, and
They do though.
yeah.
There's a lot of them that do these days.
Trust me. Yeah. I work with, I won't go into it, but, and I do it too sometimes, like where I'm like so frustrated that I just have to vent, and Lauren is the best about it. She'll sit there and listen to me vent and vent and vent. And I'm like, sometimes I just, like, I tell her all the time, I think my whole life is a prank. Sometimes, like, it all seems like here soon, like, y'all are going to bust up in here while I'm in the middle of one of these rants and be like, prank, dude, ain't nobody been watching this crap. Like, get out of here. Like, Lauren's going to be like, oh, prank, your whole life's a prank. Like, things will happen to me. And I'm like, this doesn't seem real. Like, seems like
that's imposter syndrome, brother.
Yeah, I feel like
to the point where you're like, I don't belong here. What am I,
So I'll tell you what I do. And I won't go into a whole lot of details because it's illegal in Texas. But I have this process where I partake in a herb and I get to the point where I'm almost paranoid. And that's when I will be like telling Lauren, I was like, I think I'm being pranked. But on the way down, whenever I realized like, I was just in a state of mind that was altering, it's when all my ideas come out, right?
Yeah.
It's like the stress of it leads to the ideas of it. And it's just weird.
I mean, it's not weird at all. That's a lot of writers and all that stuff is like they go through something and it brings them to a point where they've kind of got some clarity. And a lot of that's why a lot of writers and stuff were like heavy drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'm not trying to kill myself.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's the best one to do. Drinking, it will kill you.
Yeah,
it will ruin a liver. I don't do it. Never done it in my life, but I don't see anything wrong with it.
I don't feel like drinking gives me any creativity.
Yeah.
And I feel like, when I'm just completely sober, I have so many thoughts and I'll go to the creative places and stuff like that. But sometimes during that process, it really like brings out my emotions. And I'm not going to say that I suppress them. They're just not needed most of the time. So it's hard to go back and grab, especially when we're trying to do something that is creative.
Yeah.
And we're trying to be creative. And so to go and maybe in a year from now when we're, we've done 50 of these or whatever, I won't need it as much, but I haven't. Like when I was younger, I loved to write. Like when we would do like UIL and stuff like that, I always did like the creative writing, and
that's pretty cool.
I would do pretty good at it, So that was my thing with. I've always wanted to try my hand at stand-up comedy, and I just have never been brave enough. I never thought I would be brave enough to do this. I told Dusty this yesterday when we were talking. I said my biggest fear in life is that someday I was going to be, hopefully 75 years old, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. And I was going to look back and be like, I never did the fun thing with my friends that I truly wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, irregardless of whether we're good at it, whether this is dumb or anything like that, I've always wanted to try to take what I love to do, which is try to be funny. And sometimes I'm not. I've gotten several crickets, and not just like tell knock jokes and stuff like that, but just in story, just try to be funny, adding little one-liners and stuff like that. And, coming, just being creative and doing the thing I love to do. And this has, no matter how this turns out, whenever I do, hopefully get to be an older man, I can say, even if it fails, even if it's like a year from now and we're like, oh, we just don't have time and it's not worth the time, I can say that I tried.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest fear, is not trying things that I want to try.
Well, and I think with this one, it's more or less like giving us an out to like hang out, be with your friends, that kind of stuff that we didn't have 6 months ago. Like we got together and hung out, but it was never it's almost required now.
Yeah. It's almost a requirement.
It's like, it's a requirement. So it makes us hang out, and it's like what we enjoy. Like I enjoy hanging out with you and y'all and everything else. So it gives me a reason to, and it's like almost forced. Right. It's not forced because like we wouldn't do it if we didn't want to.
But there's times where if it's 7:00 on a Saturday night, normally, coming over here doing this, Kevin drives pretty far. Kevin drives an hour to get here and drives an hour home. Like he can't even, which Kevin's not a big drinker, but he can't even do it if he wanted to because he can't be driving an hour, half lit and then freaking get pulled over. And then we're like, oh shit. Yeah. Then we really won't be able to do this anymore, which I have the advantage of. I can just take a stroll home. And so I'll admit at first, I drank on here because of nerves. I mean, the first time you flash on these freaking lights right here and you push play on that record and you see yourself on that little camera, you're like, what the hell am I doing here? But now it's got to a point where I will be nervous about it during the week. Like we all put a little bit of time into it, even if it's from me bullshit writing these freaking intros to like Kevin finding videos, Dusty being tuned up on his what do we call it? I'm so bad at this. His did you know?
Oh yeah.
His did you know? And he's so good.
Dusty's smarter than the rest of us.
Yeah, and he's so good at that stuff because Dusty has like really good recall memory. Yeah. Whereas like I have to write this crap down now. If you gave me like you gave me like 2 weeks and you're like memorize these 15 lines or whatever, yeah, I could get it memorized. But whenever it's like I almost work better under the pressure. So sometimes it's like once the idea comes, I'm just like boom, boom, boom. And it may be, some weeks I'll do like 3 of these.
Yeah.
And then it'll be like, and I'll tinker with them and stuff, but I try not to mess with them too much because I do want it to just be my authentic, thoughts, right? I don't want it to come across as like a manufactured thought, but and it may be like Friday night. Or sometimes it'll be like Saturday at 2:00, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" I got this idea, and I'll write all these notes down in my phone, and then and I kind of have picked up on what you've been doing with the Chat GPT because I'm not gonna claim that I'm a good writer or anything, but I can get my thoughts down on paper. But sometimes they're garbled, and the structure, and I could spend more time, and I hopefully will. Because I think that, a lot of this conversation and a lot of y'all's conversation from the other day has kind of made me think, okay, I can put more effort into things. Yeah. Like almost the just do it mentality. Yeah. And there's things like that I do that I enjoy like after work, but I also enjoy this and I have to realize, it's not, I don't need to look at it as I'm doing more work. I'm doing something I enjoy. Yeah. Like I enjoy playing video games, right? I just enjoy it, but I enjoy this like that. Yeah. So maybe I just take like, instead of doing that tonight, I'm going to do this because I enjoy it. Yeah. And I really, and I work out of town. I'm away from my family a lot. I'm away from my friends a lot. So the video games are almost just an escape. Yeah. Oh yeah. And when you're in a camper in, Hobbs, New Mexico, there's not a lot of other things to do that aren't going to lead to criminal activities, right? So it's just an escape, but this is also an escape, and I love it, and I love that now I have the correlation from doing this, my creative outlet, to that is improving my health, and I can see it in all of us. Oh,
every one of us.
Yeah, I can see it in all of us. You can go back and you can watch, especially like the first episode that the 4 of us did together. You can see where we were maybe not Dusty, because Dusty is so good at not caring about what anybody thinks. And I love that.
You can say that. He was so nervous.
Oh yeah, he was, but you don't see it. Maybe he's just the best. I don't know. Maybe Dusty is just the best actor that we know.
You have to go back and watch our first episode.
Maybe y'all's
on Dropped Outdoors, because I had to talk him off a ledge. He's like, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah. And I'm like, brother, you talk better than anyone I know. Yeah. I'm like, let's hit play and you just go. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't care what you say, just spit it out and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I think we lost, more than a half an episode on it. Like he was very critical of himself, and so he wanted to edit it. And so he went in and he chopped a bunch of the episode out. Like I gave it to him on a flash drive. I've not seen the flash drive since then. So I don't know if that was his way of like, no, I'm not going to do that, but
Yeah.
I have to go back and look. I may have it somewhere.
Yeah.
We just need to watch like the uncut version.
And I give Dusty a lot of props for like this even happening, because after I did that first one with y'all, and then y'all were kind of like, oh, we should do something that's funny, because that's something that
The thing there was you were like stroke.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we finished that episode, and talking to you afterwards, you were like, dude, I don't know how good I did, but this is what I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, I was like, no, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, we can do 2 of these.
Yeah.
We can spread them out, do separate things, like whatever. We need to make that happen.
Right. And the good thing is that we do have people that now, now that we've got Kevin kind of involved, that gives us another, where it is hard to be like, I was thinking about it this week. I was like, I'm going to do 50 to 52 podcasts a year. A year. So I'm going to be down here 52 times in a year. That seems insane, right? But then I'm like, like kind of like today, Dusty had plans, Kevin's got plans, and I understand that. And that's how it is, but the show must go on, right? But that's the cool thing, is that like now this is something that I don't think either one of us thought that you and me would just sit here and not do, and we're not doing hunting, right?
No, not
like,
at all.
So it's like, oh, we're taking a step out on the ledge a little bit. Cause I mean, I wasn't worried about it, because you now have what, 15 plus you've done a couple of ours.
18. I've probably done.
You're
22.
about 20. Yeah. You're about 22 in. And so now I'm like, oh, well, I'm not worried about it, versus like maybe like a couple months ago, I
wouldn't have known. Like, I'd have been nervous myself.
Yeah.
I'd been like, I don't know what the hell we would even talk about.
Yeah. And I didn't know. I mean, hell, we didn't know what the hell we were going to talk about today. I mean, we had like conversation before we started, but now I feel like we've just kind of ran past, we were talking about, oh, we're going to talk about mental health for 10 minutes, and then, and then we're going to jump into some other, some hunting stuff and stuff like that. And fuck, here we are 30 minutes in. We're still, on the same track. And I love it. I do. I love that we get to express ourselves. I love the changes, not that I just like, especially with you, I'm getting to see a side of you that maybe wasn't even there before.
I don't think it was there. And if it was, there may have been like 6 people in my entire life that's heard me talk as much as I've talked right now.
Right. And it's like that. And it's like, and I think you and I are kind of in the same boat as we're doing this, which granted, I've always wanted to do this. So it wasn't probably as big of a step as it was for you, because it's not anything that, like you said earlier, you weren't even planning on being on them. You were just going to you were going to be our, the sound guy on the side.
I was going to be the guy that made it happen.
Right.
Like,
well, you still are. Yeah. I just want you to know that you still are. So it's just, I don't know. And then like we've both kind of, I got married in February. So obviously before then I did go on a little, I've been needing to lose some weight, right? Yeah. It's just, I still do. It's a journey, and you're kind of started, you're started out on your, 90 days ago. So
we did the podcast.
That was
Tuesday. So anyways, so it's probably been like 101, 102 now, but 100 days.
Cause I think when I did the first, the dropped outdoors with y'all, that was probably like y'all's 5th, 6th episode, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Between 4th and 6th.
And I think you had just started, just started. So here you are now. Since when did we start kind of doing all this? February, March?
Yeah.
Here we are. So 4 months later, and you're talking into a microphone. Sometimes twice a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even just once a week.
Yeah, a couple times a week.
Doing all this, and we're kind of on our, I've been trying, I try to get in shape for the wedding, kind of like your 75 hard thing. And then, and I had worked out before, and, to stay, where I wasn't getting too out of control, right? But it wasn't the consistency that I needed. Yep. So, okay. I got down to like 223 for the wedding. I was so excited. My goal had always been, if I can get back to 220, I'll be happy. And then hopefully keep working. Well, then I'm like 220, why do I need to stop there?
Yeah.
So, and granted, I'm not on the dedication level yet that you are, whereas because I'm traveling back, and it's always an
Yeah,
excuse, but I'm traveling back and forth for work. And, there's that day where if you don't get up on like Friday morning, if I'm going to have the whole weekend off, and because it almost works better for me when I stay at work, when I work 6-7 days a week, because then
you can be consistent.
Like right before the wedding, I'm working 7 days a week for like 2-3 months, 6-7 days. So it was easy to stay consistent, but it also was the pain of not seeing your family, and that sucks. So even though it's a 4.5-5 hour drive for me, I'm coming home every chance I can, not just to, do this, which I do enjoy.
Okay. I do
enjoy, but I mean, getting to see my family, getting to be with, you and Dusty and Kevin, and seeing us, all of our, I think I've said this to all of y'all a few times. Like now we're talking, Kevin and I have been friends since 6th grade, sophomore year. Dusty and I have, I've known Dusty since like 7th, 8th grade, even though we went to different schools. We just played basketball against each other, like in summer league and stuff. But then we ended up by going to college together and stuff like that. And then that led to me meeting you. So we've all been friends since we, all as a group since we were like 19.
Yeah.
So this is 16 years in the making, and it's just cool that we're getting to like relearn how to be friends with each other.
Yeah.
Doing this, because it is
we haven't spent this much time together since 2011.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
2010.
We've all like hung out separately, and we've got together, and it's always like when we get together, it's so much fun.
Oh yeah, and I've always had a blast.
So now we're learning how to be friends. We're doing it on a show. We're doing it where we're putting it out there. We're putting our friendship out there, and then we're not the same people that we were.
No,
14, 13 years ago, especially the 16 years ago for sure. So we're doing it without, granted, I drink on the show every night. I have a few drinks, and I'm not doing it I've done it once before, and it was early on. And so I was so nervous. I didn't want to drink. And then like today, I'm not really, it's my other freaking day anyway, but I'm not really worried about it. But now we're, instead of us being like, oh, hey, let's play beer pong
every time.
Yeah. And that occupies all our time. Now we're having to like, and I don't mean it like we never talked to each other before, but now we're having to talk to each other without any like, like the alcohol will get you giggling, Yeah. The smoking will get you giggling, a little bit like that. And now we're doing it. I guess adult friends.
Yeah.
Maybe we should change it. We should be adult friends. That should just be the name of our podcast from now on is Adult Friends. But it's just it's so fun. Like it's so much fun to just interact like this and get to talk about, Landon is feeling something with his mental health. I don't know what it is, but I can see you.
Oh yeah. And it may have been part of the podcast that kind of got it going. That may have been a big part of it. Also, like watching myself in camera, because I had, have to watch the episodes and like name them and critique them and stuff like that. And I've got this fat underneath my neck that I was just like, that's got to go. I hated it.
Yeah.
Like I could watch the thing and I would just sit here and stare at myself.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't like that.
Dude,
it's got to go.
100%. And it's helped. I think it's helped me with just talking to people in general, because when I was a kid, I was loud, and all the teachers would be like, the only kid we could hear talking down the hall was you. So I just subconsciously like lowered my voice.
You didn't go to school with Dusty, did you?
It would have been me. Maybe it would have made it better if I would have had somebody else to get in trouble with. But it's like, I think about it sometimes, because sometimes I mumble a lot, and marrying into the Scott family and mumbling are not
doesn't work.
That Scott Mason line. Y'all bred some non-hearing motherfuckers together is what you did. So going into that family, and especially with your sister, it's like if I say something and I'm not looking at her, I feel like sometimes she's just trying to read my lips, right?
Oh yeah.
And with you, and we talked about it on the one with the suppressors. A lot of it was just you go out there and start shooting these bad boys.
Yep.
People don't think about ear protection because men don't need ear protection. I work in like the blue collar sector, and men don't need.
Yeah, you don't need that.
You don't need it. And sometimes, they'll be like, "Oh, you're going to go onto this compressor site, and you need ear protection," and then I don't put it on, And then I leave an hour later and I'm just like, well,
Yep.
that was a mistake.
Ears are ringing. No, between guns and being right beside compressors for years, I mean, there's nothing left there.
Yeah.
So it's like if I could give everybody that I talk to a microphone and put these on, I was telling Dusty, I was like, I'd be fine,
right?
Because I can hear great in this, but other than that, dude, I'm winging it and reading lips and doing whatever I can. So
I feel like it's helped me with just my public speaking in general.
Yeah,
is that now I've watched myself and I'm like, dude, open your mouth when you talk and enunciate your words. You don't have to talk like this all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know it. It's just like, it was just a subconscious thing that someone had criticized me of umpteen years ago.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that is, I mean, maybe it's not, but to me it is. And the way that I feel about myself is this is helping me with just talking to people at work, talking to people on the phone, just talking to people in general. Is now I feel like I'm opening back up to maybe to my younger self, how I was as a younger man, where I was more excited and full of life and looking forward to things. And, you know, when was the last time you were so nervous you couldn't sleep? You know, that wasn't about bills, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking excitement.
Yeah,
and
excited.
It's like even whenever I go to do things that would normally excite me, things had started to feel dull.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying that because I'm not insulting the people that I'm spending my life with, and I think that's part of the mental
the mental health. You don't want to say anything, but it's like
and I don't want Lauren to think that I'm bored with her or my life, and it has and I tell her, I was like, you're the only thing that I am excited about most of the time.
Yeah.
Like I was single for so long, and Lauren and I, God bless her soul, dated for so long because I was just in a weird place. Like some weird things had happened to me in my life, and I had got over them in a sense, but even when you get over things, they still affect you.
Yeah. I feel like that side, our primitive side, is missing. And I feel like that would help it a bunch, but it's like getting in situations, like obviously I don't want to go fucking climb mountains and do shit like that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying, I hate heights. I don't want to be up high.
Yeah, you made me put your Starlink on the roof.
Hell yeah, I did. That roof's steep. I don't want to be up there. But as far as just like going out and doing something that gets our blood pumping and gets us like just feeling something, like, you know, almost not really almost dying, but almost dying in a sense. It's just something to get us like, shit, like open us up a little bit.
Yeah.
Give us the tingles.
It's like that working out and the combination of that with the podcast, because you can see the results. They're on YouTube. They're on Spotify. Well, sometimes they're on Spotify. Sometimes you just have to listen to us talk on Spotify because I'm dumb and forget to upload the actual video file and just upload the audio file. But like, I mean, my guy, I look at you in the camera and I'm like, dang, you know, and the proof is just there. And it's nice. It's a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling to do something to like bring yourself back to success, because success breeds success.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to start small. And I'm kind of the same way as you, is when people ask me about, oh, how do I start? Just do it. Like just start walking. Don't kill yourself.
Yeah. No,
don't kill yourself, but then you'll build up the strength and you'll build up where you want to kill yourself. You know, where you want to work out until you're just pouring sweat and your muscles hurt. And being older, you do have to be a little bit more careful than maybe back in the day, because like my back hurts and it wasn't from working out. It was from taking a shower.
My back is hurting, and I think it was from driving the other day. So
just driving right wrong.
There. I'm like, and that's, you know, times in my life, there's been times I would be like, oh, my back hurts. I'm done. I'm not going to go to the gym right now until it starts healing and I'll get better. And just coming up with an excuse for like why I'm not doing things. And now like, I know if I cut back, I'm going to probably fall off the wagon and not do it. So I'm just, you push through it, and it's like, fight the pains, fight the little this or that, like tweaking the knee and stuff like that. I'm just like, I'm just going to keep going with it, as to where before I would have just, it's okay, I'll do it later.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, like you said, it's stepping stones. So, I mean, me and Dusty talked about it. It's a little grain of sand here and there. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're on a mountain of sand.
Yeah. Freaking love it, dude. I forget. And it's not that my life has been bad before this point or anything. I mean, some things have happened to all of us that, you know, and they're not anything outside of the ordinary, but whenever you try to act like it didn't happen and you try to like push it down, you've got to, it maybe necessarily you don't have to deal with it specifically like, oh, this happened to me, I want to talk about it, but you have to do other things that are like, okay, things did happen to me, it's part of life.
Yeah.
Every day is a new freaking day.
If you wake up and you make your life harder than, the average sitting on the couch, whatever, it's going to prepare you better for actual hard things in life. Like there's times I don't want to get out of bed, but I'm like, you know what? Like today I had to work out, do my walk. We've got to do the podcast, and then we're going to go meet Ashley's dad for a car show that he really wanted us to go to. I hadn't been out with him and done anything with him in like almost a year now.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, we'll do that. And then we're going to go up to Windstar and watch a concert.
Oh, hell
it's
yeah.
like, if I don't get up out of bed at least 8 o'clock, I'm never going to get everything.
And it's almost, it makes the entertainment part of your life more enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
Like doing this, even doing just this specifically, if I feel like if I do my whole week, my 5-6 days leading up to the Saturday when we usually do it, that I enjoy this more because it's a reward.
Yeah.
Versus like today, like you saw me today, I saw you walking, you saw me mowing. Hell, I was like, I could use the ride, use a ride lawnmower for the front, but I want to push mow it today because I want to sweat.
Yeah.
And there's something about, and then I'm sure it's like a scientific thing, but it brings up your emotional state is when you're like, I just worked so hard on a freaking Saturday morning, and our lives are pretty, modern life is fairly easy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can get through your whole life now pretty much without breaking a sweat.
You
really can.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good thing because I don't think that's how we're wired.
It's
like,
not healthy.
Like just like sometimes one of the gyms I go to out there that has a sauna, and sometimes when I'm feeling down, gloomy, I guess, and for no reason, just because I miss my family and I miss my friends and I want to go home.
Oh, yeah.
And I go in there and I know it's going to be one of those days that it's going to be hard to get started working out in general. I'll go sit in that sauna for 10, 15 minutes, turn it all the way up and start sweating. And I'm not doing anything, just looking at my phone, just sweating. And then I'm like, oh, I'm covered in sweat. My shirt's wet. It's almost like better than any pre-workout I've ever had. You go out there and you're like, I'm already sweating. Now I'm ready. Now my body's warm and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And I just feel like sweating in general is such just I never, because playing sports all my life, I got to the point where I didn't want to sweat no more.
Yeah.
I was so tired of sweating, and I was young and naive, right? We're to thinking that everything was just good. Like everything was just going to be fine if I just stopped, and playing sports, and not for the sports part, but for the exercise part, because that was my primary exercise.
That's what we did. We played sports constantly.
So it was hard to find how to get back into just working out without the sport. Because if we could just go play basketball all the time, but I'm so terrified that if I go play basketball, I'm going to blow my freaking knee out. And that's the last thing I need right now.
Yeah, I can't go down.
Yeah, I can't go down. Like I can suffer like a little, I feel like my rib, maybe, I didn't go to the chiropractor, have them pop it back in or whatever, a little soreness, but I don't know if I can handle, because talk about some willpower to get through an injury like that, at 35.
Yeah.
Where you're not ready just to not work for a couple of months. That's the terrifying thought. And I miss playing basketball so much because that was it brings me so much joy to be good at something.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why, whenever I first started this, it was like I was either going to walk, I was going to shoot my bow, or I was, I'd be walking down and the boys would be outside playing basketball. And so I was like, I got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's pretty good. But they don't play as much right now, but it's still something that I want to do. I think it would be super cool if we could find an open gym or something like that. But there's really not.
Yeah.
Like, it's gotten so like, oh, you can't go in this school unless
I know
certain
and
things.
it used to be that they would freaking give you a key to the gym.
Yeah.
And now, and I get it, and that's a whole different thing. But entrance and just towns getting, I'm sure in like the smaller towns, even though we're in a pretty small town relative to the other towns, it's not as small as it used to be.
Yeah, no.
So maybe you go off into go north of here where it gets a little smaller, they'll let people do that. But I feel like with the way that everything has to be insured. Everything is about liability. And
Yeah.
and that kind of crap right there is just a beat down in itself. Is like everything's a rule. Everything's a liability. Like you can't just fall and get hurt, and it's got to be somebody else's,
Yeah.
it's got to be, it's whoever owns this gym. It's your fault I blew out my knee kind of thing, because, on the other turn, a lot of people don't have the ability to just be like, oh, I need knee surgery and I need 6 months off of work to recover. Because that would be a absolute travesty in most people's life, is to have to take off work for 6 months
To rehabilitate.
to rehabilitate properly. Because I can't tell you how many people I know walking around right now that got blown out ACLs right now.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't need your ACL to walk, but you do to like cut and stuff like that.
No.
I work with a guy who we were playing basketball at a park, blew out his knee, and obviously he's never been to the doctor, so we don't know. He's fine. But we can't go play. Well, can go play basketball, but he can't do the stuff that he used to do. And it's just for the simple fact of, even if you have insurance, you're going to have to take time.
Yeah.
And how are you going to provide for your family while you're rehabilitating a knee? And that's a scary thought to have.
Well, and I think that's the reason why, as a society as a whole, we've kind of gone backwards in the health and fitness and all of that stuff, because it is so much, oh, you can't use this because it's liability. You can't use this land to do that because it's liability. Everything's a liability. And on top of that, you can't rehab yourself if you do get hurt, because you can't skip work because everything is so expensive.
Yeah, you cannot afford that.
So it's like, where I would want to go play basketball, like you said, there's times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to run, and my knee starts acting up, and I'm like, I don't want to run because I don't want that. I don't want anything to go wrong because I can't afford that.
And it's not because you don't want to push yourself. It's because, the thought of, I have a fear of just like impact now, like of just like if you were to play soccer or something like that. And like somebody I don't remember, but they had brought up about playing like an adult tackle football league or something like that. I'm like, it sounds fun, but you got to be kidding me if I'm going to go out there and play in an impact like that because I hurt my back in the shower today. You think if I'm going to let somebody like Dusty's size freaking truck stick me, it's not even a toughness thing. It's like, I think that's one of those things you have to be used to.
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid, you can bounce back, you play, and then one day you just stop playing. And then from that day forward, an impact like a car wreck right now would hurt me way more than it would have hurt me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just because I'm not used to, like wrestling around and stuff. Like, hell, I was wrestling with the boys in the living room one time and freaking hurt my neck for no reason whatsoever. I'm like, God, I'm getting so old. And it's almost like you got to mitigate your risk.
Yeah.
Especially with stuff like that, because it can go south in a far way. Kind of like, we plan on going on a bear hunt. And I'm so excited. I am so excited. But we're going to be hiking.
Yeah.
And we're going to be out there.
Yeah.
And I'm got to be ready.
Oh, yeah. Like mountains and everything.
Yeah.
That's also like, I don't think that's why I started doing this by any means, but I think
it's going to be helpful.
Yeah. I'm going to get up there in the mountains and I'm going to be like, yep, this is cool.
Yeah.
The altitude's still going to whoop my ass.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Well, like we went to the mountains for a honeymoon and I love hiking and stuff like that, but we're talking about hiking with gear, hiking to hunt.
Yep.
And I still haven't even asked y'all what we're gonna do if we get one. Like,
hey, that's why I think that's why Dusty invited you. If I'm being honest,
to help carry this.
Have your ass there to pack out whenever we do.
He tries to claim he wants me to be there to help y'all film and stuff, and he really just wants me to carry what kind. Okay, I haven't really asked a lot of questions. I guess we'll just do it. What kind of bear are we hunting?
It's going to be black bear.
Black bear.
So it is the smaller version.
So how much does a black bear weigh?
Enough
to break the ice. Badoonch. Oh, no. It's okay. Hold on.
Oh, no, not even the right one. Damn.
There we go. There we go. But so how much does a black bear weigh?
I think anywhere between 200 and like 400 or 500 pounds at the most. And we know like carrying 200 pounds of dead weight is way different than just carrying around 200 pounds.
because you're talking, I mean, gravity is going to be pulling back against you pretty hard. So a male can weigh between 130 and 500 pounds.
So right there.
And I'm guessing we're going to be looking for the bigger size, right?
I mean, just you can hunt either one.
Right,
so.
right. But we're going to be specifically wanting to hunt the bigger ones,
As
right?
big as we can get.
Yeah. And bear meat is good, right? You can, you eat it. It's good. It's a good.
Yeah. Whenever Garrett was on the podcast, he was telling us about like one side of it, it's a little more sweet, and the other side is a little more like hearty.
Really, I've heard of people saying bear meat's good. I've never had it, so and I am looking forward to trying it. And then the females are between 90 and 300 pounds. So either way, we're gonna be. I mean, I don't think we're gonna be going after a 90-pound bear.
No,
you know, because that would be like
probably gonna be your young adult ones.
Yeah, that would.
I'd throw that over my back.
Yeah, right. So I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be it's going to be, even though I'm looking forward to it as like a vacation and it's going to be real close to both of our birthdays. I think we'll actually be there on my birthday.
Yeah, on yours right after
So
my
I'm
birthday.
looking forward to it as like a vacation, but I'm also looking forward to it because it's a vacation and a challenge. And that's not always something you get to do with like the children, right? Whenever you go with it. I mean, now that the twins are getting older, we can start doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with a, just like, in general, Lauren ain't going on no. I mean, she'll go hiking with me. I mean, she will hike. She will hike and hike, but we're not going to go shoot a bear, bring it down out of the mountains or anything like that.
Do the stuff that we used to do.
We're going to do like
men were men.
We're going to do like me and Lauren will do like a 2-mile hike, have a picnic, right? And it's early in the morning in the mountains when the weather's nice. And it's granted, it's always nice. That's why that's one of the big things I'm looking forward to is early September. It's going to be 100, 110. And then, I mean, I don't know what the temperatures, but they won't be 110.
Yeah, probably between 60 and 75 degrees. It's going to be nice.
Well, we don't want to say where we're going, right?
No, we're not going to say where we're going.
Well,
but it's still in the
you
mountains.
can tell me later because I know y'all have told me, but and I generally know where it is, but I would like to be able to like scout the area out a little bit, which I think this will be fun because I've always, and we were talking about this earlier before we started that, we were wanting that we thought it would be fun to get into the kind of shape where we could do like a Spartan race or something that.
I would love it. Like that was one of my main things whenever I started this. I wrote down a bunch of goals and stuff like that. I think all of them I've hit. I'd have to go back and check, but all of them I've hit except for go run a marathon. And the Spartan race, I would put that above a marathon.
I think the thing that's always kind of
not a full marathon. I ain't running that.
Do a half then do a full,
Yeah.
But that's one of the I've always been kind of intrigued about those Spartan races because it's something that you can do with your friends, and that's something that is kind of like this. It's just something else that we can do together because as like men, I do, and it's fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
I love my family, I love my wife, I love my kids, but sometimes I just need some companionship, and I feel like that's something that's bred, or not, maybe not bred into us, but engineered into us over millennia.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where that used to be like a hunting party.
Yeah.
Like
you're going out and you get the food for the village.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
And everybody would, and I know that it's like hunting a mammoth with some stick spears. That's not exactly us going up and, what we're going to do because of technology, but I bet you they enjoyed it.
Oh,
like I bet you that's something that over time was ingrained into everyone is that, it's the hunt, like as a boy, you were probably looking forward to being able to join the hunt because and you're out with the laughter and just having a good time.
Yeah.
And it's not to degrade the good time that we have with our families. It's just different. And it's unexplainable. I could sit right here and stutter and try to explain it, but it is unexplainable. Like the love that I get at home and then the love that I get from my friends and us going and doing stuff together, which I've missed doing. It's just different. Yeah. It's just a different feeling, and I can't explain it. And I wish I could. Maybe someday I'll stew on that for a while and I'll be able to explain that like I would try to explain. I try to explain it to Lauren.
Yeah.
And she does not have a problem with us doing anything together, but I try to explain to her that the male camaraderie is just there's something about it that's just, you need them both.
Well, and I really think that it is what was ingrained in our lives years ago, and that society being so easy and not having to sweat to just get through
And
a
you
day.
lose that.
You lose a lot of that, and I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, like we're in a weird point of like the evolutionary process where we're almost going back against everything, because I think the joy that we get out of doing things like that was a necessary thing to survive.
Yeah, you had to do it back then.
Right, where like there's other things where like for humans, sex feels good because we evolved. Well, it depends on who you ask, but we evolved that way so that we would reproduce more.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that we evolved to enjoy hanging out as men, because you had to go hunt.
You had to go hunt, and you couldn't go run a mammoth off of a side of a cliff
by yourself.
By yourself.
Yeah.
It's just going to run you over.
Yeah,
But if you've got 10, 12, 15 people that run them into an area, you look like you're a huge force versus what they...
Yeah, and it's like the sense of accomplishment, and having that stuff helps you in your home life.
Yeah.
Those senses accomplished outside of your home life helps you at home, where you feel like you've accomplished something for your family.
Yeah.
And you feel like you've done, because like Lauren, she may not think about it, but I think about her like this, that every day she's accomplishing so much for her family life. And I encourage her to do things like that. Maybe I've told her I want her to be on a podcast with me, because I think that'd be freaking hilarious. But like, when she wants to do things with her friends, I think that, women the same way.
Oh yeah.
You've got to get out of the house and away from these damn kids and go, at minimum be an adult, like it's
go
hard.
Get some water from the river.
Go pick some berries and nuts. No offense, ladies.
Oh, shit. I'm kidding.
Kind of, but it's true, right?
I mean, pretty much.
Kind of, but it's true.
That's what they used to do.
Yeah. And there's like a sense of, I'm sure if you brought in like Lauren and, Raina, that they would tell you that they doing stuff together helps them to recover from all the things they have to do as mothers, right? That and as how, running a household and things like that, you need a break.
Oh yeah.
You need you can look back and there's some studies that show that like women talking a lot, like that's kind of a stereotype, is women talk more than men, that was their way of, their mental health of getting through the day of, okay, all the men are out hunting, we're here with the children, having to deal with all this shit. So this keeps your mentals in check, because if you got to deal with children for too long without having another adult interacting with it, it gets hard, because kids have endless energy, and we don't. But I think we're getting a lot of that back, though. Like I think through what we're doing right now, I feel more energized on a daily basis.
I've said it before, and I don't think it's like been this magic shift in, I feel 100% better. I'm able to get up and just feel better about feel better like energetically or whatever. But it's helped with my mental stability. It's helped with, being able to just move about the day.
Right. And just like your motivation.
Yeah, my motivation more
the
than
motivation
anything.
that's
the mental stuff.
I think that's the big part, is your motivation is like, if I can go accomplish this today, it's been a good day. Yeah. And I'd rather have a good day than a bad day. Right. Well, we said we were going to do like 45 minutes, and here we are. I did want to ask you one thing. I did want to ask you one thing before we go, because this is supposed to be funny, and we did not. I had fun, though. So that's in the word funny. Okay, so since you're a big hunter, which founding father would be the best hunting buddy? I'm talking George Washington, Ben Franklin, Samuel Adams, Thomas Jefferson. In your opinion, who would you want as your hunting buddy?
Okay, let me think on this one.
And probably all really good hunters too.
I think all of them
all
probably
of them really good hunters. So these are some good
just damn survivors.
Yeah, so you've got some options here.
Honestly, if I was just off the top of my head, I think I would probably go Ben Franklin, and just mainly for the sheer fact that he was an inventor. Yeah. Like if we're just out in the woods roughing it, like I think he could come up with some cool shit where I'm like, hey, that's my guy.
He could catch lightning in a bottle for you. I like that you said that, because that is how you are.
Yeah.
You like to tinker and put things together. And like when you're in a wilderness situation, you're going to be like, oh, how can I not just survive, but
come up with a little better solution.
Like
I'm not gonna.
You want to thrive.
Yeah.
So you got like that inventor mentality almost, where, or I don't even know what you would call it. I mean, Ben Franklin was an inventor, right?
That's the way I feel
invented
about
a lot
it.
of things. So I'm sure that he would be great in a.
I feel like we're chilling out in the woods and he's like pitching ideas and we come up with a hammock and now we're just chilling.
Yeah.
Hanging out and sleeping
Yeah.
good.
And he's probably
on the ground.
he's telling you about all his French whores that he has. You got to come to Paris with me, brother. Mine would be, and this is my all-time favorite American, maybe even person, I consider to be one of the most important people who ever lived, was George Washington.
Yeah.
He was an frontiersman. He was probably some people speculate he was the first person to fire a shot in the French and Indian War, which was pre-Revolutionary War when he was a British person, and I think that just him on the frontier and the amount of knowledge he would probably have about things like that would be freaking uncanny. Oh yeah.
That's
but back then that was a giant. He's 6'2".
Nobody ever said that.
Yeah.
He's 6'2".
When you think,
I mean, everybody's like, oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln's huge.
Yeah.
Like
my whole life, I thought George Washington was minimum 6'5". And he was a big guy. But he was my height, but for that time, a lot of the things you read about him was that he was a giant.
Yeah.
A giant among men. And he had like this giant presence about him. And
honestly, I didn't even know. Like, I thought he was like 5'7".
Oh, really?
I always thought he was just smaller because everybody talked about Abraham Lincoln being so big.
And he's 6'5".
Well, he's
6'4".
6'4". Like, I'm his size. That's crazy to me.
But John Adams was Thomas Jefferson was a big guy too. He was also 6'2".
Yeah.
Ben Franklin 5'9". James Madison. Yeah.
5'4". So there was some little fools out there.
Yeah, like Napoleon was like 5'2", 5'4", and that was just maybe it was just because they had less food or their diets and stuff, and maybe not as much protein as we have access to now. But maybe that was because they weren't being over 6 foot tall. 100 years ago was a pretty like the David and Goliath story. Some people think Goliath was like 6'7".
Yeah,
and just compared to everybody else at the time, that was where 6'7" is still a big dude.
Yeah,
but
back then,
I wonder if the whole Bigfoot. People think they see Bigfoot, or people would say there used to be giants and they were just 7-footers. And it was just so rare.
You have a village that just has bred together so long that they're just all huge.
Yeah.
And so they're Victor Wembanyama's size and he's 7'6" or whatever. You're like, I mean, I would think it was a giant.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm a big dude. And you walk into a room full of 7-footers and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm small.
And imagine being like with technology, even if we had never actually met a 7-footer in person, we would know they existed. Imagine coming from your village of 5'4" people, and then you just stumble upon a village of 6'7" dudes that you did not even know existed before. That you're probably like, and then you go back home and they're like, oh, what were they like? They were like, they're actual giants.
They're giant.
They're actual freaking giants.
I think we've unlocked something there. Like giants, they were big, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
In
they
my
weren't
mind,
they weren't like 10 foot
8
tall.
or 9, 10 foot tall. Yeah. I'm like,
But shit, there's even, I think the tallest person who ever lived was over 8 foot tall.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. I mean, granted, that was like and so it could have very easily been because I think it's like a gland disorder where your growth plates never close.
Yeah.
And then so maybe there were actual 8 foot. Maybe Goliath was 8 foot. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't even real. I have no idea. But you hear about, because I took what did I take? I took a class in college, and it was like an ancient philosophy class. And you hear a lot about in like Greek mythology and stuff that there's these dragons and there's giants and stuff. And they figured out that they were sailing down the coast of places they had never been, and they would see like a elephant, like they were sailing down the coast of Africa or something like that, and they would see like an elephant skeleton just laying there, bones picked apart, so there's nothing left, and they would bring back these massive femur bones, and like we have the same, I think it's femur bone is like a blue whale or something like that, so you bring that back, not, blue whale femur bone. Them fuckers are like 80 foot long, right?
Yeah.
And you bring and it looks like a human femur, and you're like, there's a giant. And it was a whale.
Yeah.
And so all these stories and mythologies and things like that came from not knowing what things were,
Yeah.
versus now we're like, oh, that's silly. But if
Yeah.
you were alive in 1500 BC,
You didn't have anything to tell you
there
any
was
different.
there was no way to know. I mean, and that's just the crazy. Oh God, we could go into that forever.
Hours.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about how we got from there to here, and some of the things that we see now that we think are silly and they were stupid and dumb back then. They weren't stupid and dumb. They were the ones that figured all this stuff out.
Yeah.
So
You had to learn it from somewhere.
yeah, respect where respect is due, right? Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a good one right there.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming and sitting down with me today and helping this so we can keep spitting out episodes to the fans.
Always, man.
Or the few fans that we have. But we enjoy it. We hope you enjoy it. We are the Punchline Project, not Podcast Project, if you want to look us out. Also, shout out to Landon off the Dropped Outdoors podcast.
Yes, sir.
Kevin and Dusty will be back soon. Eventually, they'll be back.
One day.
So thank you. Peace out.
Later, guys.
Later.